I'll tell you, just about everything I've just said, Donald Trump disagrees with. So we're going to have quite an election, aren't we? I personally can't wait to debate him. But you know, when you vote tomorrow, you're not just voting for the next president, you're voting for the next commander-in-chief. And I gave a speech in San Diego a few days ago that outlined all the reasons why I believe he is not qualified to be president, and he is temperamentally unfit to be commander-in-chief. I have to confess, when I was preparing that speech and going through it, even I would say, he really said that? But in fact, he did. He's attacked our closest allies. He has praised dictators. He has said we ought to pull out of NATO, our premier defense alliance. He has casually suggested he doesn't care if other countries, including Saudi Arabia, get nuclear weapons. He's advocated a return to torture. He said that he would order our military to kill the families of suspected terrorists, which is an international war crime. Now, I know that foreign policy is not always a big issue in the presidential election, but here's what I want you to know and understand. That's, just ignore that. What I want you to know and understand is this. So here's what I want you to understand. When you're in the Situation Room in the White House, the hard decisions are the ones that get to the president. If they're not hard, somebody else decides them along the way. And when we had intelligence that we perhaps knew where bin Laden was, I was part of the small group to analyze that intelligence and to work with my colleagues to make a recommendation to the president. It was personal to me because I was a senator from New York on 9/11. So I was there at Ground Zero 24 hours after we were attacked, and I said that I would do whatever I could to bring bin Laden to justice for the murder of 3,000 innocent people in our country. So we went over all the intelligence, and finally the president said, after days of this, that he wanted each one of us to go around the table and give a recommendation. The people at that table were experienced, expert, everybody I respected. But each person had a slightly different take. Some people said, you know what, the intelligence is not strong enough, we shouldn't act. Others said, you know what, it's strong enough for a missile attack, but not to send in special forces. And then the third option was, it's strong enough and we have to send in special forces because otherwise we'll never know whether or not we got them. I was in that third category, and I recommended that to the president. But here's what I want you to understand. The president makes the decision. So when he said he was going to retire, take all of his notes with him, to go off and deliberate, it was his decision. He came back the next day and said he was going to order the SEAL team. It was as crisp and courageous a decision as I've seen because it was a risky one. So when the day came and we were all crowded into that little Situation Room watching what we could see on the monitors, something happened. Those of you who saw the movie, maybe you read about it. One of the helicopters clipped its tail going into the courtyard of the compound. That meant it was disabled. So here's what the SEAL team did. After they fought their way in, after they killed the bodyguards, after they killed bin Laden's adult son and then confronted bin Laden and killed him, They knew they were going to have to blow up that helicopter because we could not afford to leave it with all of the advanced technology there. Seconds were passing by. People were waking up around there. This is a military garrison town. It's the equivalent of where our West Point is. So every second counted. But you know what those SEALs did? They took all those women and children to safety. They led them out of that compound before they blew up that helicopter. That's what Donald Trump doesn't understand. That is honor. That is a representation of the values of the American military, the American people, and our country. So there is so much at stake, not just for America, but for the world in this election. And the final point I would ask you to consider is how we're going to unify our country. You know, Abraham Lincoln said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." And like so many things, he was right about that. And what we've got to figure out how to do is begin actually listening to each other and respecting each other. Unlike Donald Trump, I don't think I have all the answers. If you want to vote for somebody who you think has all the answers, well, you've got Donald. He said when asked who his advisors were on foreign policy, he said, well, I listen to myself because I have a very good brain. Also, my other favorite, I can't let it go. He was asked about his foreign policy experience. He said, well, he had taken the Miss Universe contest to Moscow. But my point is this. We've got to listen and learn from each other. No one person has all the answers. That's why it's so important we have a conversation in America about how we're going to get things done, move us forward, lift us up. We are stronger together. And I will go anywhere, anytime to seek common ground. I'll talk to anybody. I did as First Lady. I did as a Senator. I did as Secretary of State. And I will certainly do that as President. But I can't do any of this without your help. I need you to turn out tomorrow. Get everybody you can to go vote tomorrow. Make a very clear statement. We are repudiating Donald Trump. We are getting ready for the fall election. We're going to defeat him. If you will vote for me, I will work for you. I will fight for you. And together we will create the future America deserves. God bless.